I'm going to go ahead and do that and get ready to get started as we have some people filtering in, but we're at our little past our 12:15 mark here. So welcome to the Henderson Rotary Club meeting today as we start the month of October. So I know most of you, but in case I don't, my name is Jennifer Andrews and I'm filling in for President Amber today. I'm the president-elect of the club and she is on a well-deserved break and vacation. So I'm filling in for her and trying to manage my first Zoom hosting gig here. Can you all see the Welcome to Henderson, to the Rotary Club of Henderson screen? Okay, good. So I think I'll be able to share this okay. If something goes wrong, let me know. So we'll go ahead and get started the way we always do with the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do.
Say or do.
Truth.
Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all
and is it
all concerned? And is it
okay? And I think that one of our new members today, Kelsey Dunham, is a pretty new member to the club, and Kelsey is going to lead us in prayer today. Kelsey?
I am. If you'll please pray with me. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you to not ask for anything, but to thank you for everything. We are so blessed to have your love, your patience, your guidance, just you. Thank you for giving us what we do not deserve and guiding us to serve you. Guidance and dedication to serving others above ourselves in all we think, say, and do. We thank you with our humble hearts. In your name, amen.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. I don't think, Lori Tuggle, I think, is at a ribbon cutting opening event, and she will usually do our trivia and our fine. So I think she thinks she'll be a little bit late today. We'll get back to her if she is able to join us, but we will move on to Alex, and Alex is our membership chair this year, Alex Cottle. Alex, I don't know, since the last meeting, have all of our new members been welcomed? I don't know if we've had any since the last meeting. And then I also will throw it to you for our member spotlight.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. Dr. Bob Lawson is on. He's our newest Rotarian. So welcome, Dr. Lawson. We're happy to have you as a member. And we're continuing on with our Rotary member spotlights this month. And I'll go ahead and pass it off to my cousin, Lisa Onan. So Lisa, take it away.
Thanks, Alex. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I joined Rotary last year, having a good friend, Lori Tuggle, was always talking about Rotary, and she seemed so passionate. And I had always known about Rotary, but never attended a meeting. So she asked me to join a meeting. And so, you know, I soon realized that it was a great group of people and a great organization. Being on the board of the Henderson Christian Outreach, they were always, you know, a great supporter of outreach. The meeting, you know, they pray, they sing, and they always eat. So I thought, this is a good meeting to come to. I always knew, you know, they did Rotary Field Day for the school kids, but I really didn't know. I thought that actually the schools put it on. I really didn't know what all they did till I volunteered last year. I remember even when I was in school, but I had no athletic ability, so I never qualified to go to Rotary Field. But you know, they do an amazing job on that event, and the kids really have a great time. So I really missed the in-person meetings. I'm not quite as faithful on the Zoom. I'm trying to do better. But I can say that it's, something that I've really enjoyed being a part of. For me, I'm a mortgage loan officer, and enjoy working with people and being around people. So I am glad to be part of Rotary.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And I always just like to say, I mean, this is one of the great things that I love about the Rotary Club. I don't know that I hope that I would have had an opportunity to meet Lisa otherwise, but since she came to Rotary and we get to sit together and have meals together, and I feel like I've made a great friend in Lisa. And so we're so glad to have you, and thanks for sharing with us today.
Jennifer. Thanks, Alex.
I don't think we have any guests, at least in terms of who I've admitted to the room, but I don't want to skip that over in case anybody knows that there's a guest on today. So if there is, let me know. Otherwise, I will ask if there are any announcements today before we move on to our program. Anybody? Okay. All right. Well, let me see if I can get this going here. Our program today really, I think, needs not much of an introduction because he's a great friend of the Rotary Club. And then particularly this year, the recipient of the Rotary Club's 2020 Hometown Hero Award. So we had to present that a little bit differently this year, as you all know, but we are excited to be able to hear at this meeting from our 2020 Hometown Hero, Mr. Bill Stevens.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much, President-elect Andrews, and everyone. Can you hear me okay as well?
Yes.
And I do want to just apologize just a little bit. You've now discovered another of my secret identities. Of course, radio people are known to having air names and things of that nature. So this is my gaming laptop that I'm actually on right now. And so Mino Darkstar is my alter ego when I'm online with my friends on certain Star Wars games. So that's the meaning behind that. It's great to be with everybody. I'm like Lisa. I miss you folks, miss being in person. Really miss the Golden Corral buffet line, but it's really you folks that I miss the most. And I can't say how much, again, I appreciate this honor that you have bestowed upon me. And it really does mean a lot. This past September marked 40 years of broadcasting here in the Western Kentucky, Southern Indiana region. And a lot has transpired in that time. I thought I'd just share a few memories and talk a little bit about the importance of radio. But I wanted to say thanks, like any good superhero, you have to have sidekicks. And growing up, my biggest superhero was Batman and Robin. Almost died one year trying to recreate the climbing up the the side of the building. I didn't realize at the time that they actually were horizontal, not going up. But anyway, Batman had Robin, and Superman had his little dog Crypto, and Lone Ranger had Tonto, and even Roy Rogers had Trigger. And so for me, I've got actually very blessed to have several sidekicks and people that I can count on and work with, and that's everyone at the station. And that's what made this possible, is Darlene Hawkins and Greg Busby and Mary June Goodley, who has just recently retired, and all the folks that have been there. And of course, Ed Hinson giving us this opportunity to do what we do every day at WSON, to keep folks informed in good times and in not so good times. And so it's all those folks. And I also, again, give a lot of credit to my family. Right now, it's really interesting with me broadcasting from my house because my wife knows that there's this period of time before she goes to work. She has to be absolutely silent. So, and even my cat seems to know my routine now, and so she won't come, begging for something until after I'm off the air. She knows when I take off the headphones, it's okay. And so, just great to be with you today. Thought I'd start maybe at the beginning. My very first radio job was in Owensboro, Kentucky. I was still attending classes at Kentucky Wesleyan College. I actually had, I think, about a semester and a half under my belt, and I felt like I really knew everything that there was to know. And so I wanted to get into the business and actually start making some money. And I really searched. It took a little while to find my first radio job, but luckily I found a position on air. I was actually playing the hits at WVJS and WSTO in Owensboro. They're on US 60. And that station was owned by a gentleman by the name of VJ Steele, and that's where the call letters came from, Steele Distributing Company. And I remember very vividly when I first started on the air, they said, "You will become a member of the Rotary Club." And I'm probably just barely 19 years old. I'm in college. I'm working part-time at this station. I said, sure, that sounds fun. I wasn't really too aware of the Rotary Club up until then. And as fate would have it, it was about this time of year that I started working there. And so the Rotary Club at that time was putting together a haunted house in Owensboro. It was actually the home of, unfortunately, a horrific murder. And they couldn't find anyone to buy this home. And so they were about to tear it down. And so the family had donated to the Rotary Club to have as a haunted house that year. And so I remember after getting off the air, going and working on this. And actually, the movie Star Wars had just come out, and they had picked up somewhere a very nice Darth Vader costume. And lo and behold, I was apparently of stature enough that they said, you need to be the one to get in this. And I remember kind of standing in a stairwell, and I would just step out. I wouldn't have to do anything. I wouldn't have to say anything. I would just kind of step out in this costume, and kids would either run screaming or they would come up and punch me. And so by the end of that first foray into Rotary, I was a little banged up and bruised, but it was still a lot of fun. And it's been a great relationship ever since. How many people remember William Bucky Rash? Is there anyone? Susan, you remember? He was our former postmaster of Henderson, and of course, district governor, I think, of Rotary, and was very involved in the Rotary Student Exchange. When I first came to Henderson in 1984, the news director at WSON and WKDQ at that time was a gentleman by the name of Ed Castiller. He and I would trade stories back when I was still in Owensboro. He would want to know what's happening there, and I would get a story from him about what was happening in Henderson. And that's what eventually led him to offer me the position here at WSON as part of the news department. And it was a great opportunity. I've always liked the Evansville area, and so in a certainly bigger market, so was happy to do that. And in any case, one of the first stories that Ed Castiller sent me to was to get an interview with Mr. William Bucky Rash. And he basically just put a tape recorder in my hand, and he said, now, Mr. Rash is in charge of Rotary International Student Exchange. I just need to get a couple of words, put together a nice story on that. And I said, sure, that sounds great. And he told me where he lived, and that's where I was to meet him, was at Mr. Rash's home here in downtown Henderson. So I left the station, came straight downtown, parked, found the house, no problems. Beautiful, ornate home on Main Street, and very close to the library. And I got to the front door, and the screen was shut, but the wooden door was open. And I could hear some noise in the background, kind of sounded like people talking. So I said, well, he's home, and so I'll just knock on the door. And so I knocked. I don't usually pound on doors. I just, hello. Anybody home? Bill Stevens with WSON Radio. No response whatsoever. So I kind of look around, I kind of tug a little bit on the door, just see it's shut from the inside, locked on the inside. Hello, anybody home? Still nothing. And I'm thinking, gosh, you know, I'm really new at this station. I want to make a great impression. I can't just leave empty-handed. So I'm not going to give up. And so I do decide to really, hello. Finally, this gruff voice comes out of nowhere. He says, hold on, I'm watching the news. I'll be with you when it's over. Okay, fine. And so actually about 20 minutes later, once I guess the daily news was off the TV, Mr. Rash came to the door finally and he said, well, who are you? What do you want? And so I introduced myself properly as the new reporter for WSON Radio. I was hoping to get a quick comment from him about the, oh yeah, here's. And so we got about a nice 2-minute cut and made it back to the station, although at a much later time than what I think they expected. And even Ed Castiller was surprised. He said, you mean you really got a story out of him? Because he had set me up. He knew what kind of person that Mr. Rash was, and he thought maybe I would be too intimidated. But that was my kind of initiation by fire. And it was great to know, actually, Mr. Rush, once I got to know him. And that was my introduction to the Rotary Club back then. And I think I've covered countless meetings ever since. I've got another kind of interesting story of my first days in journalism, if that's okay. And this goes back to Owensboro when I was really first getting started. And this kind of ties in with the Bucky Rash story because, again, when somebody puts a tape recorder in your hand and sends you off on an assignment, you truly are expected to come back with something. You have to, something should be a story, something enough to be newsworthy. And on this particular day, I was sent out by the news director to the Owensboro Davis County Airport to cover their monthly board meeting. And I did arrive there on time, and the meeting started, and they read their minutes, and basically that was it. There was no discussion whatsoever. In fact, they were kind of looking at each other saying, why are we here? And after about 10 minutes, it was over. And I had really nothing to report on whatsoever. And I'm still new at this station. I'm trying to make a good impression. So I'm driving back and trying to think of anything that I could glean out of this. When back in those days, we had two-way radios in our cars. And that way the station could call us, we could call the station. If we had to, we could go on the air from that, kind of like precursor to CB radio. And as I recall, I was just driving back to the station, and this voice comes over the monitor. Unit 4, Unit 4, where you at? And I thought they thought I was maybe dilly-dallying. So I said, I'm on my way. I'm right back. I'll be back in the station in like 5 minutes. So no, we've had a report of a shooting on Ford Avenue. So, well, actually, I just passed that intersection on the way in. He said, well, check it out. So I basically went right around the block and was kind of looking for the police, for the ambulance, the emergency responders, and was slowing down, just kind of, scanning. I wasn't seeing anything right off. But then I did notice there was a vehicle that had several windows that had been busted out, and there was a baseball bat lying in the street. And that's when I noticed that right next to the baseball bat was a body of a man who apparently had been shot in the head, because there was things leaking out of there. So I quickly pulled to the curb. I parked. I thought, wow, I haven't really seen this before. And I got my tape recorder. I got my notepad out, and I was just about ready to get out of the vehicle when I looked over to my left and noticed that sitting on the front porch, there was a man who kind of looked like he was very pleased with himself, almost had like a grin on his face, and he was holding a rifle. And I thought, you know what? Maybe I got here just a little bit sooner than I probably should have, because I looked in the rearview mirror and here comes the police and the ambulance, the other first responders. So I just calmly just sat in my car, hoping that this gentleman was through with his shooting for that day. And as it turned out, it was a domestic dispute. The person that was in the street with the wound had gone to this gentleman's house and started to bust out windows because apparently this gentleman may have been having some kind of affair with his girlfriend. And apparently the gentleman with the rifle came out and said, "What do you think you're doing?" And the other gentleman said, "Well, I'm busting up your car." And he said, "Okay, well, just stay right there, and I hope you have good insurance." And that's when he grabbed his rifle and planted one right there, right between the eyes. And we kind of know all this because actually that person that suffered the wound testified at the trial. He survived the gunshot as his head was so hard, the bullet ricocheted, and it was just a superficial head wound. And it was kind of amazing story. And you can kind of draw a lot of different morals to that. Don't bring a baseball bat to a gunfight, or if you do, make sure the other guy buys cheap ammunition. And also, sometimes it doesn't pay to be the first one on the scene. So I've had a really interesting career being in journalism. You see just about a little everything. You meet so many great, interesting people. Some of the stories that I've had the opportunity to cover, the C-130 National Guard plane crash. That was a great tragedy over in Evansville. Very seldom do I get to eat breakfast because you're on the air early, you're doing headlines and gathering news and getting ready for the report. And by the time you're done, it's almost time for lunch. So that's one morning I had just actually gone home to eat a bowl of cereal when I got a call that there had been a plane crash at the Evansville airport. And I'm, for some reason, thinking, oh, a passenger plane has gone down, or not even a passenger, a private plane, more than likely is it. But then to find out it was a C-130 that had gone down and actually been doing the touch and go maneuvers, I think from, I think out of Louisville. The Alice Green explosion, I'm sure some of you folks may remember those days. It's been several years back now. Lost several folks in that. Unfortunately, that was a terrible night. We were about ready to go on the air with a high school football game when that tragedy took place, and we were on the air for several hours giving folks the latest information, covering the rescue operation. There were people stuck on the top of that elevator after the explosion. The Unison, and I think I see Wayne Jenkins on the screen here. Wayne knows this well, the Unison plant controversy, all the public hearings, concerns when that plant was first proposed out at the Riverport. And as we all know, it operated without a single incident. And then unfortunately, we saw it close after it actually completed its mission of removing polychlorinated biphenyls from the transformers from not just around here, but all around the country, and helped us deal with a really serious chemical and toxic chemical situation there. So, but what I remember most is actually at the groundbreaking when the activist from Evansville, it was a cold December morning, and I think we were all kind of freezing, and we're hoping to get through with this really quickly. And he comes out of nowhere running down a ditch line. He grabbed up all of the shovels and tried to abscond with them. And I remember the sheriff's deputies had to chase him down and recover the shovels so they could proceed with the groundbreaking that morning. That was a little bizarre. So those are just a few things that come to mind. So many more, it's hard to count. And I also want to say we've had great support there at the station, but so much great community support. And all the people that help us do what we do, from folks that call us when they see an accident, to the folks willing to come on this talk show, speak up. You think 5 days a week, 52 weeks out of the year for all the years that I've been here in Henderson, that's a lot of shows. And that's a lot of good information that we've been able to provide. And we try to cover it all and do it in a very factual, unbiased way. We give the information, let the people make their own decisions. So, and with that, let's see. I just thought maybe we could just go over a few things that are going on right now, and also talk about some of the things how our station is trying to address the pandemic and the world that we're living in right now. But certainly communities like ours have a lot of questions, and the citizens and our listeners are having to deal with things they've never even had to dream about before, like how many COVID-19 cases are there right now? What regulations do I have to abide by to stay safe? And the businesses that I'm normally going to, are they open? Are they closed? Where can I find, face masks and the other necessities that I need to stay safe, the cleaning supplies and other PPE, even toilet paper? What is it like to be on the front line, to be a hospital administrator, to be a nurse, to be a doctor, caregiver? Where can I get a test? And how soon can I get the results? These are all big questions that affect these folks' daily lives, and we're trying to help, and even businesses, what resources are available to help them, and even their employees who may be off from work right now, to get through this. So we're trying our best to fill in those gaps of information and do it, again, with well vetted, unbiased information. And that's what a lot of journalists, especially our local journalists, are having to do, is maybe dispel some myths and some misconceptions, and even just outright falsehoods or rumors. We've always had to do that to a certain extent, but I think unfortunately right now, especially with social media, it's even more prevalent, and we're having to redouble our efforts to make sure that the information that we give out is totally correct and what the people need to hear. And this, of course, we're doing in addition to all of our usual programming and coverage of the news. So you're still finding out about, is the traffic backed up on the North End Strip because of a wreck? Can I get to work on time today? How's the weather today? Is it nice and sunny, or will I be able to mow the grass when I get home after work, and those types of things? Even as mundane as today trash day. We'd kind of, I think, take those little things for granted, but for other folks, I think it means a lot. So we try to be that source, keep people up to date, especially when things are changing on such a rapid basis. And when it's news that maybe we don't want to hear. Our reports mean that you aren't left just wondering and making up answers on your own. And, maybe the thing that we're helping right now, for the most part, is just letting folks know they're not alone, that there is a voice out there that they can rely on. If radio is anything, it's consistent. And I think that's something that a lot of people are trying to hold on to right now. What are things that we can depend on when things are changing so much in our world? And so there's a reason we have a routine and a format and how we do things in order every day. And actually, I think it's that same kind of repetition and routine that maybe makes it easier for folks to cope with, especially in uncertain times when everything else may be not the way that they're used to. So it is a huge responsibility. It is oftentimes very tiring, and there's so much more now that we have to be responsible for, in light of the fact that we don't have the coverage that we once did with our local newspaper cable TV, magazines. A lot of the sources of information are going by the wayside. But the one thing that is constant is radio. Over 100 years, and we are still one of the most listened to mediums anywhere in the world. And we're accessible. It's free, and so I think those are still our strengths. It's immediate. We can go on the air if something breaks out right now, and we can turn on a dime, and we are adjusting. I think we can adjust a lot quicker than maybe some others can. And those always have been the strengths of radio, and especially local radio. Of course, we sat down when this first started and asked ourselves, what can we do? What are some of the ways that we can help our community through the pandemic? We've started carrying the governor's daily briefings in the afternoons, when that's something we continue to today, and have that on at 3 o'clock normally, and invite anyone to join us for that. There's always more than just the pandemic numbers. There's always some type of new angle as far as services or outreach, the Team Kentucky Fund, and different things like unemployment. So that's just one thing that we've done, but we've really tried to be more hyper local than ever before, especially with our schools. We helped with the graduation back in the spring when they couldn't do it the way they've normally done, and that actually was tremendous, I think, and we'll probably see that done in the future, even when there's not a pandemic. The senior sunset was something else that we were involved in with Ginger Stovall at the high school. We even did the first ever senior sunrise for the new class of 2021 this fall here at the high school. Something else that we've just begun is our live video streaming of high school athletics, in light of the fact that they can't have as many people there in the stands. Actually, the school system reached out to us and asked how we could help, and we were more than happy to do that. And again, really, we had maybe, well, it was less than 2 weeks, I know that, to put things together. We've done video streaming in the past, but there's some new things that have come along, and we're using those to our benefit. And there's a program that actually is Ed very familiar with and introduced us to at the station, called Switcher Studio. And that's what we're using now for our broadcast. It makes it look, I think, much more professional than just something on an iPhone. And we're very proud to be able to offer that. In fact, we will have our next live video stream this afternoon, first ever of a girls volleyball game. And I think it's wonderful that we are giving even some of these other sports that maybe haven't had the exposure in the past, the same kind of recognition and exposure. And so I would not be adverse. Now, I'll have to figure out a way to keep the water out of the camera, but even a swim team meet or something like that, I think would be cool. And so look for more video streaming as we go on, and not just sporting events, but community events. Of course, we video stream Christmas parades, and not sure if we'll have a Veterans Day program at South this year, but I can assure you if they do, we'll be there, and we'll be sharing that as well, especially for any veterans that can't make it out now during this pandemic. And those are just a few of the things that we endeavor to provide in addition to our ongoing services there at the radio station. And I'm leaving some things out, I know, but I'm looking at the clock here, and I don't want to go over my time. And I just want to say thanks so much again to each and every one of you, and to the Rotary Club for what you do. I think it's so neat that you're donating the meals each week to a different organization. I was going to ask who you will be gifting this week.
It's Father Bradley's Shelter for Women and Children and Children's Advocacy Center.
That's fantastic.
Yes. Thank you so much.
If anybody has a question, certainly be glad to take a minute or two.
Anybody have any questions for Bill?
No question, but just a note of sincere appreciation for everything that you and Ed and everybody else there at WSON, that all of y'all have done over the years to keep Henderson and the surrounding area informed of what's going on, Bill. We appreciate you all so much, and so thank you.
Very welcome.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any questions?
Mr. Stevens, same from Henderson County Schools. I'll echo what Ms. Saul says. You all at WSON are a valued partner, and we sincerely appreciate what you do for Henderson County Schools.
Actually, that's the one thing I forgot I was going to mention. We're working with AJ Casey and the SOFA students out at the high school. They are in the process of actually writing their own radio play, since they can't really have a fall production as they normally would with folks in the auditorium. And it's our plan to, once they have that prepared, to start to record that and produce it as a podcast, and actually share that with our listeners as well on the air, and then have it archived as well, and also give these theater students a chance to still be able to perform and maybe kind of learn some of the old ways, how we used to do it back in the good old days, you might say, of radio, of you know, the old radio shows and plays and things of that nature. And I think that's just another example of how we're trying to partner. And I want to say also a big shout out to Nate Fish. They're at the Colonel Cast at the high school. They've been invaluable in helping us with the video streaming. They're providing some students to help us run some of the cameras. And so there's another great partnership there. And that is our future, right? It's our kids. And we've always, I know all of us love to have kids from all ages into the studios to show them what radio is about, what their hometown radio is about. And that's probably one of the most enjoyable parts of my job, is when we do the station tours. So we're very much fortunate to have such a great school district to work with, and in partnership on so many different things.
Thank you so much. And I know everyone here will join with me to also thank you for the great support you give the Rotary Club and our programming every week, and trivia night and all of those great things. It's really a great partnership, and we really appreciate the support you give our club. It means a lot to us.
Again, it's a two-way street, and I really am so proud of our local Rotary as far as all the different outreach efforts and helping out with the HERF Fund, and then all the different grants that are put out, the Colonels to College Scholarship. I mean, all the opportunities for our young people once they go to the college. I think, you know, we're going to be reaping the benefits of that for a long, long time. So it's actually very easy to cover a group like you folks, and we appreciate your support as well.
Thank you so much, Bill. I think we have just a minute here to also go back to Lori Tuggle is with us. She's had a very busy day. And Lori, do you have a trivia question for us? We can squeeze that in, I think.
I do. I apologize for being late. I was at the Chloe Randolph organization's opening today. If you don't know, or you get an opportunity to stop by and say a kind word to them. This is Domestic Violence Month, and they're going to do some great things with the city, do a tree lighting for both breast cancer awareness and for the domestic violence. So I do apologize for being late, but without further ado, if you'll unmute yourselves, we will get right to the trivia question today. So this is a baseball question, and I say that because when I read it, I want to make sure everybody knows. Which pitcher had no right hand? There was a baseball player that did not have a right hand.
Jim Abbott.
Jim Abbott.
Yes, that's correct. Congratulations, whoever got that. I was amazed by this. One of my boys found this for us, but it said he had 10 seasons in a baseball career and had a no-hitter, and he did not have a right hand. So I thought that was very interesting.
I saw him pitch in Chattanooga one time.
Oh, really? Yeah,
In a minor league game.
We were watching the playoffs last night, and one of my boys like, I have a trivia question for you because I found this interesting. And I was like, okay, thanks. So I thought I'd bring that to you guys today. So thank you so much. And again, I apologize for being late.
Oh, thank you, Lori, so much. And so we will end today the way we always do, and the way we begin with the 4-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And for our club, is it fun? All right, thank you all so much. Thanks for letting me fill in today, and for your patience with my use of technology here. So tell Amber I did a great job.
You did.
Okay.
We'll keep working through it, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you. Have a good
Thank you,
night.
Jennifer.
Bye.
Thank you all.